Thank you, Jesus. Thank you, Jesus.
Thank you, praise team.
Yes, Lord. Yes, Lord.
Thank you, Sister Tanisha.
Amen. Beautiful.
Thank you for your diligence, praise team. No, it ain't easy. But we thank God for you today. Waiting for the praise dancers to come back in. I was sitting there thinking, I said, Donald, them dance lessons finally paid off. Right? She's gonna beat me up. I was watching her dance. I said, yeah, I remember having chicken on. I remember she can do that tiptoe and stuff. Then I got to thinking, I said, why not? What better place in the house of God to use that gift? Amen. This morning, I'm going to allow you to keep your seat, yet we still honor the Word of God. Reason being, the reading will be a bit lengthy today. But let's go to the Lord in prayer first, and then we will get into the Word of God. Father, thank you for such a privilege to be a proclaimer of your Word today. Lord, I cannot do it in and of myself. I pray for the anointing of your Holy Spirit, God, to be upon me. Bring forth with clarity, Lord, the intent and the meaning of your word today. Lord, most of all, may you be glorified with the proclamation. But then also, Lord, I pray that people will be edified and encouraged. Somebody's here that doesn't know Christ. I pray they come to a saving knowledge of his love and grace today. Bless now this time. Give me health, give me strength. In Jesus' name. Amen. Amen. Turn in your Bibles to the book of Job. The book of Job, chapter 1. Then also I want you to go all the way to the end of it, chapter 42. Job chapter 1. Then just find your place in chapter 42. We'll read some verses from there. Job chapter 1. I'm going to read the whole chapter.
All right.
And then we'll move to chapter 42. You there, say amen. Amen. If you need more time, say I need more time.
Need more time.
All right. And I forgot, if you got a phone or a tablet, feel free to open that up so you can get to the Word of God. Job chapter 1, reading from the New American Standard, reads this way. Verse 1, there was a man in the land of Oz, whose name was Job. That man was blameless, upright, fearing God, and turning away from evil. 7 sons and 3 daughters were born to him. His possessions also were 7,000 sheep, 3,000 camel, 500 yoke of oxen, 500 female donkeys, very many servants. That man was the greatest of all the men of the East. His sons used to go and hold a feast in the house of each one on his day. They would send and invite the 3 sisters to eat and to drink with them. When the days of feasting had completed their cycle, Job would send and consecrate them, rising up early in the morning and offering burnt offerings according to the number of them all. For Job said, perhaps my sons have sinned and cursed God in their hearts. Thus Job did continually. Now there was a day when the sons of God came to present themselves before the Lord, and Satan also came among them. The Lord said to Satan, from where do you come? Then Satan answered the Lord, and he said, from roaming about on the earth and walking around on it. The Lord said to Satan, have you considered my servant Job? For there is no one like him on the earth, a blameless and upright man, fearing God and turning away from evil. Then Satan answered the Lord, "Does Job fear God for nothing? Have you not made a hedge about him and his house and all that he has on every side? You have blessed the work of his hands and his possessions, and he's increased in the land. But put forth your hand now and touch all that he has. He will surely curse you to your face." Then the Lord said to Satan, "Behold, all that he has is in your power, only do not put forth your hand on him." So Satan departed from the presence of the Lord. Now on the day when his sons and his daughters were eating and drinking wine in their oldest brother's house, verse 14, a messenger came and Job said, a messenger came to Job and said, "The oxen were plowing and the donkeys were feeding beside them, and the Sabaeans attacked and took them. They also slew the servants with the edge of the sword, and I alone have escaped to tell you." While he was still speaking, another also came and said, "The fire of God fell from heaven, burned up the sheep and the servants, and consumed them, and I alone have escaped to tell you." While he was still speaking, another also came and said, "The Chaldeans formed 3 bands and made a raid on the camels, and they took them, and they slew the servants with the edge of the sword, and I alone have escaped to tell you." While he was still speaking, another also came and said, "Your sons and your daughters were eating and drinking wine in their oldest brother's house. And behold, a great wind came from across the wilderness and struck the 4 corners of the house, and it fell on the young people, and they died, and I alone have escaped to tell you." Verse 20, then Job arose, he tore his robe, shaved his head, he fell to the ground, and he worshiped. He said, "Naked I came from my mother's womb, and naked I shall return there. The Lord gave, and the Lord has taken away. Blessed be the name of the Lord." Verse 22, through all this, Job did not sin, nor did he blame God. Chapter 42, verse 1, then Job answered the Lord and said, "I know that you can do all things, and that no purpose of yours can be thwarted. Who is this that hides counsel without knowledge? Therefore I have declared that which I did not understand, things too wonderful for me, which I did not know." Check this out right here. "Hear now, and I will speak. I will ask you, and you instruct me. I have heard of you by the hearing of the ear, but now my eyes see you. Therefore I retract, and I repent in the dust and ashes." Drop down to verse 10. "The Lord restored the fortunes of Job when he prayed for his friend, and the Lord increased all that Job had twofold. Then all his brothers and all his sisters and all who had known him before came to him, and they ate bread with him in his house, and they consoled him, and they comforted him." Check this out. "For the adversities that the Lord had brought on him. And each one gave him 1 piece of money, and each a ring of gold." And just 12a, "The Lord blessed the latter days of Job more than his beginning." Stop right there. Nothing deep today. Just want to speak to you from this thought: enduring the interruptions of life. How do you deal with interruptions in life? Matter of fact, we're going to be talking about interruptions on Wednesday night as well. But interruptions of life. It was a Saturday night at the Coconut Grove restaurant, and it was packed. The waiters were setting up extra tables and chairs to accommodate the customers. This was back in 1942. The United States had been involved in World War II for about a year. In the restaurant during this time, as it was crowded and it was packed, there was a doctor there by the name of Dr. Vincent Cena.
All right.
He was having dinner, and right in the middle of his meal, his pager went off. As his pager went off, since he was a doctor, the message was that one of his patients had gone into labor. And so he was being called hospital. Dr. Vincent Cena kind of grumbled and kind of fussed and complained because he was right there in the middle of his meal, and he had to stop right then and there and make his way to the hospital. As he did, he rushed to the hospital just in time to deliver a baby, but then not realizing to himself he was saving his own life. Because what had happened was the Coconut Cove restaurant, for some unknown reason, burst into flames. Even still to this day, they don't know how this fire started. But while he left, because of an interruption, it burst into flames, and some 490 people were killed. Needless to say, interruptions come our way.
Amen. Amen. Amen.
And I'm sure Dr. Vincent, I'm sure he did not want to leave his steak dinner or whatever it was he was eating. But through the divine providence of God, through it all, through this interruption, his life was spared. Interruptions that come seem like great inconveniences, man. I don't know about you. But interruptions have a purpose to it. My wife often tells me that the slow person driving in front of me is my angel. Keeping me from getting a speeding ticket or possibly having an accident up ahead. It's very inconvenient. For some reason, I've started to drive fast now.
Amen.
But interruptions. Today, what I want us to look at in the book of Job is a man who experienced an interruption. An interruption so much so in that it devastated his whole life. The book of Job is a story about this man named Job, where he has lost everything. He's lost his health, he's lost his money, he's lost his family. And then as a result of all of this tragedy, he has to wrestle with the question of why has God allowed this to happen? There's probably nobody in here that hasn't gone through some hard time or some trial, some interruption where you haven't asked yourself, what did I do wrong? What is it that I've done to make God mad that he would do me like this? But I think you've seen it in the first verse. You'll see that it teaches us that just because you do everything right don't mean that you're going to be prevented from any interruptions in life. It don't mean no matter how good a driver that you are, that one day somebody won't run into your car. It don't mean just because you've eaten all the right things and taken all the right nutrients and taken all the right meals and all that you won't die. It don't mean that even when you exercise and everything like that your bones still ache and still hurt. I don't understand that. You gotta explain that part to me. Supposed to exercise, you feel better. My knees still hurt. But all of us in here has experienced some type of interruption. Something interesting about this book, the book of Job. I just want to give you this for some knowledge's sake. This book, Job, let me back up. Job probably lived during the time of Abraham, Isaac, and of Jacob. And you can draw that conclusion based upon the content that's in the book. Number one, it tells us that when it says that he was a great man, let me get back to chapter 1. When it tells us that he was a great man, it means that he was a rich man. He is rich, as you will see in verse 3. His possessions were 7,000 sheep, 3,000 camels, 5,000 yoke of oxen. Gives that whole list, and very many servants. And that man was the greatest or the richest of all the men of the East. During patriarchal times, wealth was measured by the livestock that you had and not silver and gold. Later on in the Bible, silver and gold becomes an issue of determining your wealth. But during this time, during patriarchal times, it was based upon how much livestock you had. Because think about it. He had sheep. If he had sheep, he could get him some clothes. He had camels. And he had other animals in which he had plenty of what? Food. And so therefore, he was dressed to the hilt. He had camels, so he had the best transportation during that time to get him to and from. So he had more than enough, but nevertheless, he was a rich man. The other thing that is seen in this is that there's no mention of the Mosaic law, and there's no mention of Israel. Another mention that lends toward this is that he gave sacrifices, like Abraham. Like Jacob builds an altar and he makes a sacrifice to the Lord. And so this sounds like this is that patriarchal period in which the book is written, well, maybe not written, but so much so that he has lived. He's living during this patriarchal time and this patriarchal season. We often talk about the patience of Job and all those kind of things, and everybody's got their twist and their turn to it and all that. And I don't want to fall prey to all the cliche stuff that has been given to this book. I just want to simply preach to y'all what I have seen and what I discovered just in the last few days of looking at this book of Job. How do you handle the interruptions that come your way? I was sitting there thinking interruptions come all the time. Probably talk about this more Wednesday. Interruptions come when you come to church.
Amen.
Oh, that's right, you're not the pastor. Interruptions come to me when I come to church. I tease, I say, you know, pastor, and I run for I guess I run because I'm like, I don't know what they get ready to drop on me, and I clown a little bit just in case it is something of a serious matter. I got to keep my sense of humor.
Amen.
But interruptions come our way.
Yes.
Real quick, let me give you this, man, because sometimes I just want to share what the Lord has given me. In looking at this book of Job, sometimes it's so expansive. It seems like it's so big, and I fight with it. But it's really divided into three little parts. Chapters 1 and 2 deals with the dilemma of Job.
Right.
Chapters 3 through 37 deal with the debate with Job, or the debate. His friends come along. And these dudes are long-winded, man. They got chapters 3 through 37, where they're trying to give good advice to Job. But then in chapter 38 through 42, to the end, we see the deliverance of Job. Real simple. But today we're just going to look at chapter 1 and not chapter 2, because he has issues in chapter 2. But today I want us to just look at chapter 1. I said it earlier, a righteous life is not going to keep you from having interruptions in your life. Sometimes we think if we do everything the right way, if we pray the right way, if we fast, and if we give, and I don't know how many of y'all know, when you can give a 10%, you can give 20%. That don't mean God is always going to bless you financially. I just want you to understand that. But that ain't no reason not to give. We're going to talk about that this Sunday. We talk about the report for everything like that. That's going to be March the 11th. It's going to be talk about Monday Day. Amen. Y'all better come in too. We're going to do some Periscope or something. We're going to get on the Facebook or something. Anyway. But here it is. Look, let's just get to the point of it. A righteous life is not going to keep you from running into interruptions. Or keep them from coming your way. But then how can we handle these things? Let me just see what we can learn from this text real quick. I don't plan on being long. But the first thing I want to show you is this. The interruptions come to us from Satan via the hand of God. They come to us from Satan. The trials, the tests, they come to us from Satan by way of the hand of God. Down in verse 6, and you'll see it, and I have to give you a little history lesson, but in verse 6 he says, now there was the day when the sons of God came to present themselves before the Lord, and Satan came along with them. Now remember, Job's this righteous dude. Matter of fact, Job was such a good man, a blameless man, that even when he thought his kids were sinning, he offered sacrifice. Amen. The text said that just in case they sinned while they were partying, and it was thought that they were sin. He said, I want to be, here it is, men, the priest of the home.
Yeah.
Come on.
And you know what? I got to give a side note right here. Men, we are the priests. You are a priest of your house, whether you like it or not. God has called you to pray for your family. God has called you to lead your family. Listen, and I ain't going to be short of saying this or preaching this, especially when we try to teach our kids the Word of God. Because our kids know every other song out there, every other this, that, or the other. But when we come to try to get them to memorize the Word of God, you ought to grab your kids and say, today, in my house, we going to serve the Lord. And I ain't saying choke them and all that kind of stuff, but sit down with them long enough to teach them the Word of God. And so here it is. Job was a man that comes up and he is taking care of his responsibility and sacrificing for his family. So men, it's time to turn off the basketball game.
All right.
Or take it.
Yeah.
It's time to turn off the video game. It's time to put whatever it is down that you are not spending time with the Word of God, number one, yourself, or with your kids. Yeah, you get a little clap. Because I know it's right. And listen, your house will be better for it in the days to come. Because trouble cometh, man. Trouble is going to come your way. And listen, if you have not instilled within your children some spiritual value with the way this world is pulling and tearing and tugging on them, and you don't give them not one scripture, there ain't going to be no church. I'm sorry, we got company today, my man. All right, but let me get back to my point. I'll stray way off.
That's all right.
The interruptions come from Satan via the hand of God. In verse 6, it gives the story. Verse 7, he says, the Lord said to Satan, from where do you come? He says, roaming to and fro. So here it is. Satan has this access to heaven. Here's a real quick history lesson. Something happened in heaven. You had all these angels that were in heaven. And matter of fact, Lucifer was in heaven. Matter of fact, you know your Bible's Lucifer. He led the choir in worshiping of God. Because it said he had nice pipes. That means you can sing. You know, he could sing. And so he had nice pipes. But somewhere Lucifer lost it. And he decided he wanted to exalt and elevate himself against God. And he decided he didn't want to worship God. And he said, God said, that's fine. You don't want to worship me. That's fine. You can't stay up here. Matter of fact, you and a third of your henchmen, you are cast down to the earth right now. And matter of fact, that's where Satan is having his dwelling place. That's why we got so much hell and so much trouble here on the earth. Because a third of the angels, the fallen angels, are here right now. But here, don't miss it. They are not omniscient. Satan ain't omniscient. He don't know everything. He's not omnipresent. He's not everywhere, but he got demons all around. And he's not omnipotent. He works with limited power. And so you got to understand that even though Satan has come in to cause an interruption, it has had to come through the hands of God first before it's come to you. There's a picture of the crucifixion. And I forget the artist, but he used some metallic paint and kind of mixed up some stuff to cause what they call a superimposition on the canvas. And you've seen it. I'm kind of bringing it down a little bit. You've seen it where maybe in your Cracker Jack box when you was a kid and you got the little book or something or the little picture and you kind of move it to this side and you see one picture and then you move it back to this side and you see another picture. Well, in this art gallery, this picture of the crucifixion had the superimposition on it. And so what would happen is when you were looking right in front of it, as you would see it, you see Jesus with nails in his hands all by himself. But when you would step to the side of the picture, the superimposition would come in, and then what would happen is you would see another set of hands on top of Jesus' hand. The picture was designed to show you that even though Christ was on the cross, that he wasn't on the cross by himself. When you step aside and you look, God's hands was on top of Jesus' hand. And all I'm trying to get you to see is that whatever it is that you're going through has to pass through the hand of God, or against the evil one of us. If you got trouble this morning, it's passed through the hand of God. If you got sickness today, it has to pass through the hand of God. If you're disturbed in your mind, it has to pass through the hand of God.
Thank you, Lord.
Satan is only an instrument,
Yeah.
and he has limited power. Let me share this with my I was thinking about limited power because he had to ask God for permission. Y'all heard me preach this before. This part, he had to ask God for permission.
Right.
So check it out. If you're dealing with some stuff, some interruptions this morning, you're worthy enough that he has permission to bother you. Now here's the deal. The thing is that the thing is that Satan wants to use these interruptions to become distractions for you so that you can't see God. Remember that? And what he'll do is he will get you looking at the person.
Right.
Or he'll get you looking at the situation to make you forget all about who God is. And if he has accomplished that, then he has become successful.
That's good.
But his power is limited. You say, man, it sure does seem powerful, but it's limited. Let me show you. My computer is always plugged up to the power source. But when I unhook it, screen dims just a little bit. It lets me know that it's not fully connected. But then what happens is, as I go throughout the day, and I never plug it back up, it's living its life on limited power. So first it's at 100%, but then it's at 85%. Some of y'all know where I'm at. Then it's at 65%, and then eventually it never gets hooked up. It will go to 0% to where it doesn't function anymore. All I'm trying to get you to see is Satan could just be at 65% right now, or 30%, but it's coming today. But coming to a day when he ain't gonna have no power at all. When Christ comes and opens up the sky and comes back and returns, he gonna be out of power.
Amen.
I got to thinking maybe that's why he bothered me so much this morning. Somebody asked me in the room, Pastor, you okay? I said, no. I'm telling you, I'm just frank with people. No, I ain't lying. I said, yeah, I'm fine, praise the Lord. No, I ain't. I don't know which way to go right here. I got somebody mad at me, this person mad, upset, this guy, the other. I don't know what to do today. No. Ain't nothing but the devil. Trying to distract me from worshiping God, from recognizing and adoring God for who he is. So don't get distracted by the limited power of Satan. Next thing is this. Interruptions come one after another. Verse 13. They, when the sons and daughters went out eating, just move over. Verse 15, the Sabaeans attacked and took them. They also slew the servants. They edged the sword. Look at verse 16. While he was still speaking, another also came and said, fire of God fell down. Verse 17, while he was still speaking, Another also came and said, the Chaldeans formed 3 bands, made a raid on the camels, and took them and slew the serpent. Verse 18, while he was still speaking, another also came and said, your sons and your daughters was eating and drinking. The wind came and tore down our house and killed your kids. Anybody testify with me life can be just like that? You ever gone through a season where it is one thing after another? I think it was a song back in the day, if it ain't one thing, it's another. I don't know the tone and all that, but it sounds right. Sometimes I find myself saying that if it ain't one thing, it's another. Once you get out of one thing, it seems like something else show up. You get healed from this disease, and now this one show up. You walk and feel it fine, and all of a sudden you got a pain over here. One thing after another, and interruptions come like that. They don't come with a telegram letting you know. They don't come with a text message. They don't Facebook you to let you know trouble comes this day.
Come on.
They just show up. Here's the thing too, moving to the next point, takes a divine perspective to handle your interruptions.
Yes, indeed.
You know what? You can't run from them. It comes a point where life gets so heavy on you, you look up and you cry, oh Lord. You ever done that? You ever done it unconsciously? You just, oh Lord. And you know, and because we become creatures of habit.
Yeah.
I'm going to move down here to verse 20. All this stuff is happening. Look, all this stuff. His food is gone.
Right.
Boy, that made me mad. Well, what I'm going to eat? I don't care nothing about no clothes. I'll figure that out. But I want to eat. My car gone. My car all messed up. And now my family.
Yes.
My family's gone.
Yes.
That'd be more than I can bear.
Yeah.
So look at Job's perspective. Then Job arose. Now some of us will stay in the bed. Let you catch that. Some of us, I ain't going to work today. Some of y'all blessed with jobs. I'm just going to work from home because I don't want to see nobody. I don't want them to see me today. I don't want them to see how bad I look today because I just don't feel it.
Yeah.
You know, bless you if you got that kind of job. I'd be working from home every day. You stay in the bed. I don't joke about this, but that can be a place of depression.
Yes, it is.
I used to say, you know what, God, I know God can cure everything, and I used to, you know, I was kind of learning about going to get help and talking to somebody. But listen, and I'm not copping out. If you need to go talk to somebody, go talk to somebody.
Amen.
A professional, a Christian professional.
Amen.
And I pray about it. I ain't saying just go talk to anybody. They have you going, you know, doing all kinds of stuff, going back in your past or stuff that ain't even happened.
Right.
But ultimately, sometimes you need to sit down and talk to somebody.
Yeah.
You find yourself where you're incapacitated and you can't function and you can't move.
Yeah.
I ain't talking about the light bouts of depression that we get. I shouldn't say light, but the bouts of depression that we get.
Yeah.
On Monday morning, the stuff didn't happen right. You down and discouraged. I ain't talking about that. I'm talking about the kind where you can't move. Job don't get down like that.
Come on.
Job, it says Job arose. And look at what he does. First of all, it says he tore his robe.
Yeah.
The tearing of the robe signified him recognizing his inner turmoil. So now Job ain't trying to walk around and knowing that he lost everything. And as they see Mr. Job in the city square, how you doing, Mr. Job? He didn't lie and say, oh, I'm blessed and highly favored.
Yeah.
First of all, his robe was torn. It was a sign that he was dealing with something on the inside that was eating him up. And there ain't nothing wrong with you tearing your robe if you're fighting with an interruption or a trial to let God know exactly how you feel. Whether you're down, whether you're discouraged, whether you're depressed, whether you're frustrated, Shaving our heads now is popular. Not so much in that culture. It was the removal of your glory.
Yeah.
That's why when Samson gets his hair shaved off, he loses all his power and all of his glory, because the glory was in the hair. And we don't see Samson coming back until in the text where it says, and his hair began to grow back.
Amen.
He shaves his head in the sign of losing his glory. And then look at what happens. Shaved his head, and then he fell to the ground. Now, first, when I always read this before, I just looked at it as if he fell to the ground and he was groveling in the dirt. As if to be kicking his feet because so much bad had come his way. But the text says he fell down and he did what? Worship! How many of us in here that when we have interruptions that come in our lives, get down on our knees and worship? No, I ain't talking about get down on your knees and say, God, fix it. God, do this. God, do that. But come and say, God, I'm going through right now, but I want to thank you for being God. God, it could have been a whole lot worse than it could have been. God, I want to say thank you today. What Job did was he had a perspective. And he worships God. The next time your interruption comes, instead of griping about it, like the man at the restaurant, have a bigger perspective. Bow down and worship God. I ain't got time. Let's get on back. Let's get on to 42. Turn to 42, because the last thing I want to share with you is this. The interruptions, these trials, they lead to our transformation. See, you thought I was going to give you something. Jump on that wagon where it said Job received twofold, tenfold more than he had before. No. We ain't shouting on that. Because what happens if you don't get it? What happens if you don't get it back?
Come on.
Can you still worship him if your health never returns? Can you worship him if your hair never grows back? Can you worship him if you never have the amount of money that you had before you lost it? The point of the story is not that you suffer and then God blesses you and elevates you, but here it is. The point of the story is that through the interruption, Job gets to know God better than he did when he first started walking with him. Look at the text. In verse 1 of 42, Job answered, because here it is. Let me real quick. Chapters 3 through 37. You got his boys, 3 of his boys come by, and they give him advice. And they're trying to explain why he is going through what he's going through. And the whole time, God has been listening. So what happens, you got to read it for yourself, man. I ain't got time. You got to read it for yourself. It blew my mind. I was reading it last night. Start in chapter 38. And when you start reading in 38, let me just give me some time. We're going to eat and sit back and chill. But let me finish. Well, in verse 38, he said, chapter 38, he says, then the Lord answered Job out of the whirlwind, and he said, who is this that darkens counsel by words without knowledge? In other words, his friends was trying to tell him, this one is happy, this one is happy. Job trying to draw his own conclusions. And God has said, you can't figure me out. I got some questions for you. Verse 3, gird up your loins like a man. I'm going to ask you a few things. Verse 4, where were you when I laid the foundations of the world? Listen, I ain't got time. Read it for yourself. almost 17 years. Let me get to the end of the text. I've held you way too long. Verse 42. Chapter 42. Verse 2, he said, I know that you do all things. He said that no purpose of yours can be thwarted. Who is this that hides counsel without knowledge? Therefore I declare, which I do not understand. So that's what he's saying. In a sense, he's repenting. He said, God, you got me. Read 38, 39, read all up to the end. He said, you got me. He said, you know what, who is it that would think they would have enough more knowledge than you, God? Who is it that would try to figure you out? So look at it in verse 4. Hear now, and I will speak. I will ask you, and you'll instruct me. Now here's the verse that knocked me off my feet last night. I have heard of you by the hearing of the ear, but now my eyes see you. Yeah. Oh, y'all missed that. Let me read it out of the New Living Translation. Verse 5, he says, I had only heard about you before, but now I have seen you with my own eyes. And the point I'm trying to make is, God takes Job through the interruption of life so that Job can come to the point to where he says, I've heard about you, but now I know you more for myself because of what I went through. If you ain't been through nothing, you might not even be able to see God. But if you've been through some stuff, he lets you know that, yeah, I heard about it. I heard that he makes a way out of no way. But now I know, and now I see you for myself. The purpose of our trials, the purpose of the interruption, just like in the restaurant, was to save his life. But the purpose is that we might see God. The purpose is to see God. Not to just get delivered from your affliction. Verse 10, the Lord restored the fortunes of Job. He prayed for his friends. The Lord increased all that he had twofold. Verse 11, they came and ate with him. But I like what it said in verse 11. For all the adversities, they come to comfort him. They said, for all the adversities that the Lord had put on him. Man, here it is. In all of this, God is sovereign. And what God does in his sovereignty, every now and again, takes us through a test to see what you know. You've been saved for 50 years. Boom, he gives you a test. You've been saved 2 weeks. Boom, gives you a test. You're a minister. You're a reverend. You're a minister. Amen. Takes you through a test. But you know what? It's only a test. Let me pray for Deja. I don't know where I'm at. I don't know if they still do it somewhere. Yeah, they still do it every now and then. Every now and then. On the radio or on your TV. When you're watching your I can't think of none of y'all shows. That's all right. That's all right. Holy Spirit said, don't mess with me. When I'm watching my ball game, listening to the radio, and then you ever heard this noise? The screen comes blank or something comes up. But then you hear this voice. This is only a test of the emergency broadcast system. This is just a test. You do all that stuff, and you sitting there waiting. But then he comes back on. This is only a test. But if this had been an actual emergency, you would have received instruction on what to do if this was an actual emergency. And I'm here to tell you, Grace, that as you're going through, God has already given us the instructions for every emergency that we're going through. But you need to realize and recognize that it's only a test. It's only a test that God is going to it's only a test to see what you do. God is sovereign.
Yes, He is.
And you and I have to live in that sovereignty and trust God no matter what goes on in our life. You're here today. You've never accepted the Lord. There's an emergency. There's an emergency. You need to take care of that today. Because you can't have that assurance if you don't know the Lord as your personal Savior. And I know I'm saying it right here. We got to keep moving because the dinner is ready and the offering got to be taken out. But I want to talk to you after service. That if you're not sure, that if you're to die today, you'll spend eternity in heaven. I want you to know that for sure. And I want you to know that maybe what you're dealing with, you're going through is a test. So that like Job, you can say, oh, I've heard about God. And now I know. Because I've seen it myself. I know if I can boot y'all right on out of here on that. But I can't. But on the real side, do you know him? Looks like it's mostly family folk, but do you know him? Let's take some time just to make sure. Every head bowed, every eye closed. Father, thank you for the testimony of Job. Forgive us for where we have made light of this story, not taking the true meaning of it. It ain't about getting back what has been taken from us, but it's going through it so that we might see you for ourselves. And if we are rewarded or we are given as a result of things being replaced, we thank God. We thank you for that. But even if not, help us to worship you in spirit and in truth. Now, Lord, somebody might be here today that doesn't know Jesus Christ. And I'm praying, Lord, that you will let them know that you love them, that you have a plan for their life, and you got a purpose for them today. So, Lord, by the power of your Holy Spirit, touch hearts today. Somebody wants to make that decision. Help them to do it today in Jesus' name. Every head bowed, every eye closed. God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, whosoever believed in him